Disney is falling apart in every aspect of their business. Its stock is at its lowest level in nearly 10 years. Those huge movies they poured hundreds of millions into flopped at the big office big time. The buzz around Disney's live-action films is more about their controversies than their quality. Then there's Disney Plus, their streaming service. You'd think it'd be raking in cash, right? Nope. It's actually bleeding money. Over $5 billion in losses last year. And Disneyland, every kid's dream destination, isn't drawing the crowds like it used to. So what's happening to Disney, the company that was a huge part of our childhoods? Well, I can say that Disney is no longer the magical, wonder-filled universe that it was when we were growing up. It has become, as many people said, the most evil business in the world. Yes, you heard me right. I said businesses, not company, because it's quite clear that what's driving Disney now isn't creativity and value, but rather greed and the pursuit of money. The greed to become a media monopoly, buying out every movie studio on this planet. Marvel, Pixar, 20th Century Fox, Lucasfilm, and more. But not for the better, for the worse. And the greed to milk every last penny out of our childhood memories. It was even so rotten that in 2019, Disney forced a family to remove Superman's image from their son's grave, all because of copyright concerns. Yes, you heard it right, a grave. How could his parents possibly profit from their own child's grave? But still, Disney said no. But that story is just one small piece. From racism, whitewashing, and blackwashing, to exploiting workers and the woke controversy, Disney's true story paints a much darker picture than they want everyone to know. Get ready for some truths that can ruin your childhood. Normally you would begin the video by reflecting on Disney's success story, but this time, I don't think we need to dive into those details. Just look back at your childhood. You'd probably already know the answer. The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan. These were more than just movies. They were a part of everyone's memory. Each film generated hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. The Lion King earned the most, at nearly $1 billion, making it the 57th most successful film of all time. And the soundtracks? Absolutely iconic. This era from 1989 to 1999 is known as the Disney Renaissance, a time where Disney animated movies were at their absolute best. Moving into the 2000s, Disney entered what's often called its experimental phase, trying new things to keep the billions rolling in. One of their most successful ventures was the Disney Channel. So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana, and Wizards of Waverly Place, and also their original TV movies, Smart House, Cadet Kelly, the Halloween Town series, and who could forget High School Musical? These shows and movies weren't just entertainment, they were cultural phenomena. For those who didn't grow up in that era, it's hard to describe the huge impact back then. But for me, they created so many unforgettable moments that later became a defining part of my youth. And for the girls at the time, I can say Disney Channel was the trendsetter. Every girl wanted to dress like Hannah Montana. Leggings, mini dresses, sequin skirts, and big jewelry. I still remember my aunt battling crowds for hours just to buy a Hannah Montana t-shirt for my sister. That was crazy. However, this period also seemed to mark the beginning of Disney's struggles. They started the 2000s with The Emperor's New Groove, which turned out to be one of their least profitable films in years, earning only $70 million. Then came Treasure Planet in 2002, Disney's first movie to lose money since the 1980s. To make things worse, their competitors, Pixar and DreamWorks, were dominating the box office. Pixar's Monsters, Inc. earned a huge $500 million, and DreamWorks was on a roll with big hits like Chicken Run and Shrek. Just Shrek 2 alone made an impressive $900 million. Disney tried to keep up with Lilo and Stitch, their last big original hit since the 90s, earning a decent $273 million. Pretty good, but still, it's not enough to beat Pixar and DreamWorks. As the 2010s rolled on, Disney was staring down trouble in every direction. Not just the animated films, their cartoons couldn't quite match up to Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. Even their live-action films struggled to maintain success. They had their moments with big names like Pirates of the Caribbean and Chronicles of Narnia, along with favorites like The Princess Diaries, Freaky Friday, Bridge to Terabithia, and Remember the Titans. However, after these hits, Disney Channel's ratings started to drop. A lot of critics argued that Disney's storytelling has lost its charm, with animated films stuck in a 90s time warp, and live-action movies featuring dull characters and unmemorable plots. What does a typical company do in such a situation? They'd usually sit down, crunch the numbers, and brainstorm creative ways to fix the issues, right? But Disney, seemingly too rich to bother, took a different route. They started buying up companies that were producing genuinely great art, and that strategy saved them, but only for a little bit. Later on, it turned into one of the main reasons people hate and walk away from Disney movies. Okay, let's go into the details. In 2006, CEO Bob Iger decided to acquire Pixar for $7.4 billion. This wasn't Disney's first acquisition, nor would it be the last. Here's a look at Disney's acquisitions over 33 years. They've taken over ESPN, Marvel, Hulu, Lucasfilm, 21st Century Fox, and much more. By 2011, Disney was one of 6 major companies with consolidated control over almost the entire American media landscape. Between 2010 and 2019, Disney reaped the benefits of its acquisitions, releasing hit films that became some of their highest grossing ever. With Pixar, for example, we got massive hits like Toy Story 3, the highest grossing animated film of all time, and Brave, earning $500 million at the box office. Monsters University grossed over $700 million. Then, Inside Out was even bigger at $850 million. And Marvel, with the whole interconnected movie universe, we have seen so many masterpieces: The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Deadpool, Thor: Ragnarok, Deadpool 2, Venom, Black Panther, a groundbreaking film that became the top grossing film by a black director, making over $1.3 billion. And then the massive finale, Avengers: Infinity Wars and Avengers: Endgame, grossed $2 billion and $2.7 billion at the box office, respectively. So buying up all studios and IPs seemed like a smart move, but just at first. Post Endgame, it feels like Disney's box office dominance is nearing its end. First, MCU, the biggest cinema franchise ever. Recent releases like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and The Eternals struggled to even break even. Thor: Love and Thunder and Wakanda Forever were not so bad, but when you consider the promotional and distribution costs, a box office of $760 million against a $250 million budget isn't as impressive as it seems. The only recent hit that resembled the MCU's former glory was No Way Home, which wasn't even entirely a Marvel production, and brought them only a small portion of its profits. Then there's Lucasfilm and Star Wars. When was the last time you caught a Star Wars movie in a theater? I'll give you a moment to think. It's been a while, hasn't it? I mean, if Rise of Skywalker had made billions, do you think we have to wait this long? And their TV shows, not better. It doesn't seem like they've got many fans on board with their recent stuff. To be fair, Andor was actually pretty good. It's a shame it didn't get the viewership it deserved. Next up, let's talk about Pixar. Their 2022 movie Lightyear only made $226 million worldwide, and it cost $200 million to make. Not much profit there. Then there's Elementals. It had the lowest opening for any Pixar movies in 29 years, earning just $29.5 million in the US. That's not good, especially when it cost $200 million to make. The reason? I think Disney was not doing a good job of developing their franchise quality. In other words, they even ruined some of it. We'll talk about the details right now. First, Star Wars. Before Disney took over, Star Wars was a rich universe and one of the biggest pop cultural influences in human history. But now, in 2024, it feels like they've completely ruined it. No compelling storytelling, no intriguing plots, just a bunch of old concepts that everyone already knows with some flashy special effects. Just like any average run-of-the-mill movie. It's like you told a dumb AI, take a look at these Star Wars movies and make something similar, but just tweak a few things here and there. And admit it, Season 3 of The Mandalorian was just terrible. Since 2019, Disney's story has mostly been one flop after another, with just a few mild successes here and there. Sure, you can say that's because of the pandemic, but movies like Top Gun Maverick, Super Mario, and the recent Barbie show that good films can still be big hits even after the pandemic. So it's not about the pandemic, it's about making great movies. If it's a good film, it'll do well. Period. This creative bankruptcy isn't just affecting their films, but also their other ventures like Disney+. To be honest, I still enjoy some old classics like Hannah Montana, but for the most part, not a big fan. The two biggest franchises of Disney, the MCU and Star Wars, Disney Plus ruined them. Star Wars, as I mentioned earlier, has been reduced to a bunch of low-quality, unengaging TV shows, and as for Marvel, they broke it. From subpar writing and humor to really underwhelming special effects. Check out their Secret Invasion. I mean, who even watched it? It was just a mess. So I wasn't surprised when they dropped around 11.7 million subscribers worldwide in just 3 months. And by the time 2023 wrapped up, they had lost over $5 billion with their streaming service. But what really showed the world how far Disney has fallen from its once magical and wonderful image is its string of controversies. Racism, whitewashing, blackwashing, and involvement in woke controversies. I could go on and on. I saved this for last because it's tough. Realizing these truths might ruin some of your favorite Disney memories. The first hard truth is that Disney has a long and disappointing history of showing racism and sexism in their media. The crows from Dumbo reference Jim Crow laws and portray anti-black stereotypes, the Islamophobic tropes in Aladdin, the mockery of Native Americans in Peter Pan. The list goes on. Just type Disney racist moments into Google, and you'll find a ton of results, including some in-depth research papers on the subject. Even Disney had to admit that. They've added warnings about racist content to some of their classic movies, like The Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, and Swiss Family Robinson. These warnings show up before the movie starts and are also included in the program's description. And the classic Disney princess movies, they are all filled with sexist themes. Beauty and the Beast. A beast threatens and imprisons a young girl and her father, all to pressure her into marriage. Sounds like something from a #MeToo story, right? Then there's The Little Mermaid, where a woman has to completely change herself just to find happiness. The takeaway I got from that movie? Better listen to your parents. Cinderella tells us a woman needs a man to rescue her from a desperate situation. And what about Sleeping Beauty and Snow White? They both feature those iconic scenes of non-consensual kisses. Modern Disney characters aren't better than the classics. In some ways, they might be worse. Disney's trying so hard to be progressive, politically correct, or woke that they end up with female characters who are just plain rude, totally unbelievable, or outright annoying. And when fans don't like them, Disney's like, "Oh, you just hate women." But hey, we all loved Leia, Mara Jade, Padme, Ahsoka, right? So here is a note to Disney. It's not about hating equality or strong female characters. Those are awesome. But it was not okay when you toss out a good story, believable characters, and basic logic just to tick boxes. And then, Disney's most recent controversy, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White and the Seven Companions of Various Skins, because apparently, casting dwarves is out of the question. Isn't that a bit of a contradiction in Disney's version of being progressive? In their Snow White remake, the characters aren't dwarves anymore for the sake of political correctness. So if I get this right, being correct now involves excluding certain groups? Disney, please answer it. It's not just the films that are stirring up controversy. Their workplace is making headlines too. A 2020 article by The Nation titled, "Disney is not the greatest place on earth to work," exposed the poor working conditions for Disney employees. In many cases, they weren't even getting the minimum wage in their country. Think about thousands of people working long hours for low pay, pouring their efforts into creating something magical only for the profits of the top executives who don't seem to understand the Disney magic. It's just sad. Honestly, I'm not sure whether to be happy or sad about Disney losing money. On one hand, Disney was a huge part of my childhood, but then there's all this bad stuff they've done. And you, what's your take on Disney's troubles?